Hello, hello. Welcome to Wicked Words, the podcast where you get to listen to my terrible New England accent while I discuss true crime and other dark topics. My name is Brooke, and today we have an update in the Harmony Montgomery case. So, this morning I put together this entire episode, I recorded it all, and then when I went to kind of stitch the audio together, I noticed how horrible it sounded. The microphone that I had been using before was damaged, so I am now using this fancy new microphone my husband bought me, and I'm still trying to figure it out. So please bear with me if the audio sounds off in this. Please bear with me. It's my second time recording this entire episode again, and I am learning how to figure out this microphone. But I wanted to get the information in this episode out because it's very important. Okay. On June 1st, 2023, the trial of Adam Montgomery, Harmony's father, began. But this trial wasn't for the murder of Harmony. It was for firearms that Adam and his estranged wife Kayla had stole and sold in late 2019. The couple were indicted on these charges back in June of 2022. I watched the trial on 1.75 speed, and I still had to skip through large portions of silence and countless sidebars. It was interesting for a law nerd like me, but for my husband, it put him to sleep. There were significant details that came to light in this trial that give us some insight into what evidence the state will bring into the murder trial. The testimony of Tara Hilbert and her fiance Josh Zimmerman, who both lived behind the Montgomery's Union Street apartment, stood out to me the most. She briefly discussed Adam's paranoia and the way he was behaving around this time, while Josh mentions that Adam began leaving notes on people's windshields, yet the content of these letters weren't really disclosed. They kind of stopped Tara and Josh Zimmerman from going into further detail, but I think it's going to be discussed more in the murder trial. It also came out in this trial that Adam was hiding the stolen firearms in the walls and ceiling of the Guilford Street home that they were evicted from. And this fact is important to keep in mind when we discuss the arrest affidavit for the murder charges. The other thing that caught my attention were these video clips that showed Adam, Kayla, and Adam's girlfriend at the time, Kelsey Small, making a deposit of Adam's cell phone into these like electronic ATM machines that they have at Walmart. And it shows them depositing the phone and getting cash for it. And this happens to be the day before Adam is arrested on the assault charges for Harmony. I'm positive that will be replayed in the murder trial, which is set to take place later this year in November. The clip that clip, it made me think of something that one of the state's witnesses, Mike Sullivan, said. And he said, when you're doing drugs, it becomes a lifestyle. Adam knew that he had to get rid of that cell phone, but the addict in him also knew that he had to make money. So rather than destroy evidence that could potentially lead to, charges of murder, he needs to get his next fix, and he deposits the phone into the ATM, which can be recovered. It makes me realize Adam still has that hustler mentality, that he's sucked in that lifestyle, you can tell. And I personally have watched many friends and family go through the struggles of sobriety and fail because they're sucked back into the lifestyle. Growing up where I did, I was very blessed that I never got into it despite being surrounded by it. And honestly, that was one of the biggest issues that the defense faced. They villainized the credibility of the state's witnesses by bringing up their past drug use and criminal history that stemmed from it. The state made a wonderful point that these witnesses were getting up on the stand and exposing their lowest moments in their lives for the open court to memorialize in transcripts. And chances are somebody in the jury has had someone in their family who has struggled, So the defense kind of making them seem like they're not worthy to give much credence to because of their habits, it really kind of leaves a bad taste in the jury's mouth. It makes the defense look like assholes. And the defense also made themselves look really foolish on day 2 when they allowed a registered sex offender who was called by the state to correct them multiple times. I cringed a lot at the defense. And to be fair, the state had their moments where I shook my head too. I really hope that they prepare their witnesses a bit better for the murder trial than they did for this one. However, I am aware that it's difficult to adequately prepare witnesses whose memories are kind of jumbled as a result of their previous habits. The closing arguments were truly the pinnacle in this case for me. The state did an absolutely amazing job. It was visual and dramatic and memorable, while the defense just repeated the same illogical story over and over, hoping that it would stick in the jury's mind as they went back to deliberate. And it didn't. Adam was found guilty on all charges. The sentencing date for this trial hasn't been set yet. There were some scheduling conflicts, but it should be within the next month or so. However, with the conclusion of the Firearms case, the arrest affidavit for the murder charges were unsealed and made public 10 days later. So, what did we learn from that almost 50-page document? A lot. I actually had to take quite a few breaks while I was reading through it because I was enraged. There were so many heart-wrenching details laid out, and it just angered me because Harmony deserved so much better. This poor baby dealt with so much in her 5 years that she should have never had to. And it could have been prevented if Judge Mark Newman of the Family Court in Lawrence, Massachusetts, did his fucking job and put the best interest of children first and foremost. There isn't a single universe where Harmony is better off with Adam. There just isn't. Crystal, at least, didn't have a documented history of violence. Adam, on the other hand, was a fucking suspect in 2 murder cases, and he was charged in 1. I am really curious how many other children have been harmed, abused, neglected, maybe even murdered because Judge Mark Newman failed to do his fucking job. It also didn't help my mood that to begin the affidavit, Detective Dunleavy gives an introduction to himself and his experience, and he uses the term child pornography. Sir, child pornography, that term, no. Pornography is consensual, and what you encounter is called CSAM, child sexual abuse material, because pornography implies consent. That downplays what it actually is. I have to give Dunleavy a pass, though, because when he did testify in the Firearms trial, he made it abundantly clear to Adam that he was coming for him. And that energy, I'm fucking here for. I have faith that Detective Dunleavy won't stop looking until Harmony's remains are laid to rest. Let's dive into the rest of this insanity in a somewhat chronological order. At the end of November 2019, Adam, Kayla, and the kids, meaning the two boys Adam Kayla had and Harmony, are kicked out of the Guilford Street home, and they're forced to live in the family's 2010 silver Chrysler Sebring. This is about the same time that Kayla is fired from her job at Dunkin' Donuts. On December 7th, 2019, the family leave the Colonial Village apartment complex parking lot where they had been parking overnight, and Adam realizes that Harmony had an accident. And he's angry that his 5-year-old daughter, didn't tell him that she needed to use the bathroom when she needed to, considering they're in a fucking car with no bathrooms nearby. But anyway, he gets angry and he reaches behind him because he's driving and reaches into the back seat, and with a closed fist, he strikes Harmony in the head or face at least 3 times. Kayla recalls Harmony moaning in pain for about 5 minutes until it stops, at which point she quotes Adam as saying, "I felt or heard something, and I think I might have really hurt her this time." Yet nobody gets her medical attention. Nobody even fucking checks on her. Instead, they all go to Burger King on Route 3 before they return to the Colonial Village parking lot. When they get back to the parking lot, they go to their friend Anthony Bodero, who lives in the Colonial Village, and they get fentanyl or heroin, and they use it, and at this point they leave the parking lot again. They don't get very far, because once they hit Webster and Elm Street, their Sebring dies. And at this point, they realize that Harmony's not breathing. And again, instead of getting her emergency assistance, instead of starting CPR, Adam goes to the trunk and removes clothing from a red and black Under Armour bag and takes Harmony's body and puts it in the Under Armour bag. And the family make the decision to abandon the vehicle there and walk back to Colonial Village. When they get back to the Colonial Village apartment, they ask Anthony Bodero if they can stay in his vehicle for the weekend, and he allows them to. That night, the family is attempting to sleep. Adam is swapping the bag from the trunk into the snow in order to slow decomposition of Harmony's body, and the car dies. So, fearing that they're going to freeze in New Hampshire's cold, it was only about 9 degrees out that night, they start reaching out to friends to see who can come and give them a jump. Eventually, they get a hold of Kim Frayne. Now, Kim Frayne is the ex-wife of Chris Frayne, who Adam stole the firearms from. Kim comes and she jumps the car, and she recalls only seeing the 2 boys in the back seat. Now, after the weekend, the family move in with Kayla's mother, Christina, and Christina's boyfriend, John. And during this period, they keep the Under Armour bag containing Harmony's body and a red and white cooler, and they leave the cooler in the shared hallway of Christina's apartment. At the end of December 2019, Kayla, Adam, and the boys move into a family in transitions shelter on Lake Avenue, and they bring along Harmony's remains, still in the Under Armour bag. They wrap it in a trash bag, and they place it in the ceiling vent. Well, it doesn't take long for a complaint to be filed with maintenance, stating that a foul odor, seemingly coming from the Montgomerys, is seeping into other people's apartments. When the maintenance manager comes to investigate, Adam had already taken the Under Armour bag out from the ceiling vent, put it in another trash bag, and put it in the closet. So when the manager came, he checked, didn't find anything, and said, "Oh, the smell must be from a dead animal." Only a day or two after that, Adam removes the bag from the closet and goes into the bathroom with it. Kayla said he remained in there with the water running for about 4 to 6 hours. And she just remembers that when Adam finally came out of the bathroom, he placed a Catholic Medical Center maternity bag into the freezer, and the bathroom smelled like cleaning products. That's all she can remember from that moment. But later that day, Kayla is told that CMC maternity bag that Adam placed in the freezer, take that and bring it to him at his job at the Portland Pie Company. So Kayla does what she's told. She takes the bag containing Harmony's remains, places it into her double stroller, her front back stroller, right in between Harmony's half siblings, and she pushes it to Adam's job, where he takes it and puts it in the walk-in freezer. 2 employees who worked at Portland Pie Company around that time recall seeing it in the freezer and recall that Adam is the only one who interacted with the bag. At some point, it was taken back to the Lake Ave shelter. And at that point, now by this time, it's the end of February 2020. Kayla and Adam signed the lease for 644 Union Street, and Harmony's remains are placed in a plastic storage container. And Kayla walks the storage bin just like she did to Portland Pie Company all the way to Union Street at their new apartment, where they then put the bin into a closet there. At some point, the bin begins to leak, so Adam places a garbage bag over the CMC maternity bag and puts it into the refrigerator at the Union Street apartment. This is obviously only a temporary solution, so Adam decides that he's going to take Harmony's remains back into the bathroom, and he is going to, I guess, try to dissolve them with lime. Kayla is present for this incident. She cut the clothing off of Harmony, and she recalls that Harmony was still recognizable. She wasn't skeletonized. She still had hair. She still looked like her, which is awful. This little girl had been dead for about 3 months now. And they dumped about 20 pounds of lime on her and ran water and tried squishing her body down to make it as small as possible. And then they tried to shove it back into the CMC maternity tote bag. And because her body was still frozen, Adam was struggling and he had a hard time with it. He began to strike the bag containing his daughter's body and slam it to try and get it to close. And Kayla said she recalls trying to help him zip it up. And when they finally got it zipped up, they put it into the freezer, and Adam went back into the bathroom and cleaned it with ammonia. Again, at the Union Street apartment, it didn't take long for complaints to come in about a foul odor coming from the Montgomery's apartment. In fact, at some point, the property manager actually receives a report. It's not stated whether it was during the time that Adam lived there or after, but at some point they receive a report that the bathtub needs to be unclogged. In the beginning of March, Adam is doing drugs with his friend Travis Beach, and he confesses that he fucked up and he needs Travis's help. He tells Travis that he needs him to rent a U-Haul, and Travis is like, okay. He agrees to do it for him, but he doesn't have a valid driver's license, so he actually has to recruit a friend named Brittany Bedard, and she decides that she's going to rent it for him. But she actually rents 2 hotel rooms for them as well. And her credit card statements show that this happened on March 3rd, 2020. She rented 2 rooms at the Chronology motel. She stayed in one with Travis. Kayla, Adam, and the boys stayed in the other. Adam had taken the CMC maternity bag and put it in the mini fridge in the room that they were staying in. And in the middle of the night, he removes the bag from the fridge, and Kayla asks, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'll be back." And she says, "Where are you going?" And he says, "I'm not telling you, because if we ever get into a situation where you have to speak to the police, I don't want you to know." And he says he'll be back. Now, this is somewhere in the morning of March 4th, and while Kayla doesn't know where he is, we happen to know that Adam made 3 toll violations that morning, somewhere in the ballpark between 4:45 a.m. to about 5:15 a.m., and they were all on the Tobin Bridge. So we know he was in that area. However, we can't prove 100% it was Adam, because Mass DOT, the Department of Transportation, they purposely distort the faces of drivers for privacy reasons, and they don't keep any any pre-distorted recordings, so there's no way to prove that it was actually Adam driving. However, the violations do corroborate Kayla's story, so take it with a grain of salt, maybe? I don't know. I think it was Adam for sure. Now, when Adam returns to the motel, he tells Kayla it's done, and she never sees the CMC maternity bag ever again. And that same day, Travis reaches out via Facebook to make sure that the U-Haul was returned, and Adam swears that he did. And then he tells Travis not to reach out to him again about this subject, and he deletes his Facebook. And for the time being, things did seem to be done with. Adam and Kayla went on to have a daughter of their own in November of 2020. The following month, Adam began cheating on Kayla with Kelsey Small. They have a couple of brief interactions with DCYF, and at some point, Kayla takes her 3 kids and moves back in with her mom. Meanwhile, in the background, the U-Haul that was used by Adam was sold at auction to a father and son who repurposed the GMC Savannah for their cleaning business. And they're actually located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It isn't until June 2021, after Crystal makes a TikTok about Harmony's disappearance, that Kayla removes Harmony from her food stamp case. And at this point, Adam makes an appearance at Kayla's mother's house, knocking on the window, kind of like taunting the family. He leaves, but the following morning, Christina goes out to check the mail, and she finds a knife stuck inside the lawn. So she tells Kayla, "You gotta leave," and she gets a restraining order against Adam. So Kayla goes back to the shelter with her 3 children. Around September 2021, someone who's close to Crystal contacts DCYF and informs them of the situation, considering they're not taking Crystal seriously. And DCYF checks in with the Manchester School District to learn that Harmony hasn't been registered for school anywhere. But they don't take any further fucking action. In fact, it's not until November 18th, 2021, that Harmony is even officially classified as a missing child by the Manchester police. And despite DCYF contacting the Montgomerys multiple times and being told that Harmony is with Crystal, but then also being told by Crystal that they have no clue where Harmony is, like, there's an enormous failure on DCYF's part there. Especially considering they had checked the Manchester School District and knew that she hadn't been registered. Like, what the fuck? Yet it took Crystal writing an email to the mayor of Manchester to even get this case, like, started. And unfortunately, it was started way too fucking late for Harmony. That's when DCYF and Manchester police, like, touched base and really, like, reached out to the Montgomerys to find out what the hell was actually going on. At this point, it was December 28th, 2021, and they finally speak to Kayla. And Kayla tells them she hasn't seen Harmony since November 2019. Adam dropped her off at her 6 a.m. shift at Dunkin' Donuts, and he said he was bringing Harmony to Crystal in Massachusetts. And when Adam picked her up at 2 p.m. from her shift, Harmony wasn't with him, so she assumed that she was with Crystal. She told police that she hadn't had contact with Adam since October 2021 and that he went to a sober house, but then he left there prematurely to go be with Kelsey in Maine. On December 30th, surveillance footage shows Adam, Kayla, and Kelsey at that Walmart in Manchester, New Hampshire, depositing Adam's cell phone. While Kelsey is entering information at the kiosk, Adam and Kayla actually go down to, like, the health and beauty aisle, and they have, like, this weird covert conversation before they leave. It's very sus. And the next day, December 31st, police find Adam and Kelsey sleeping in a vehicle on Harvell Street in Manchester. They separate Kelsey and Adam and they interview them. And when Kelsey's interviewed, she tells police that she didn't even know Adam had a daughter named Harmony. When police make a comment to Adam that they fear Harmony is no longer alive, he's extremely unemotional and he's extremely vague in details as to where she is. He doesn't want to be specific because he doesn't want it to be used against him later. They seize Adam's phone and he's released. Kayla's interviewed again, and this time she maintains the same story. She doubles down, in fact, and she tells the police it was on November 27th when Adam brought her back to Crystal. So police reach out to Crystal's long-term boyfriend, Joseph Eckert. It says Eckert in the police affidavit, but it says Eckers online, so regardless, his name's Joe. They speak to Joe, and he says, nope, Crystal's never had custody of Harmony since I've been with her, and I've never even met Harmony in person. So at this point, police are confused as fuck, and they decide, you know, let's get DCYF involved. They have an emergency custodial order granted to DCYF for Harmony, and the police serve Adam with this order on the 31st. This is all taking place in one day. So they make a second contact with Adam to serve him with this paperwork, and when they do, he's informed that he's required to produce any information that is going to provide Harmony's whereabouts. And Adam refuses to comply. He actually tells them to arrest him or he's leaving. Adam shouldn't have been so smug, though, because although the U-Haul had been sold out of state, his Sebring hadn't. In fact, his Sebring had been treated like an abandoned car, essentially, and was towed, subsequently sold to Hebert's Used Auto Parts, where the police were able to find it on January 1st, 2022. So, police searched the vehicle with consent from the new owner, and in the back seat, they find a pink Trolls toothbrush. They're assuming this toothbrush is Harmony's, so they take a sample from Adam and a sample from Crystal, and they compare the DNA to get a presumptive profile for Harmony. Just 3 days later, Adam was arrested on charges of second-degree assault stemming from an incident that was in July 2019 that actually was reported during the investigation by one of Adam's family members. This incident, I guess, Adam bragged about beating Harmony and she had a black eye. So he's arrested on January 4th, and that same day, the FBI joins the search for Harmony, and they conduct a search on the Guilford Street apartment. The next day, Adam is arraigned, and police speak to Courtney O'Brien and Matt Garcia, who claim that they had interaction with the family on Thanksgiving Day, and then they saw them again later in December 2019. And when they saw them, Matt had asked Adam, about Harmony, and he said, "Oh, she's with her mother. She's better off there." Matt actually quoted Adam as saying, "The kid wouldn't stop pissing and shitting everywhere. She was driving me nuts." On January 6th, Kayla is arrested on felony charges of welfare fraud. But these charges are later dropped to theft, and then they're dropped altogether. In February, Governor Sununu holds a press conference where he releases details regarding Harmony's investigation, and he makes recommendations to DCYF based on this case. And this press conference wasn't like simply to appease the masses. In the background, this investigation was going full steam. There was grand jury testimony being held, and matter of fact, on February 18th, Christina, Kayla's mother, was one of the first people to testify. On February 26, 2022, the 24/7 tip line that was set up for Harmony's case received an anonymous call relaying information about Travis Beach and the U-Haul that he rented for Adam Montgomery. When the authorities attempted to reach out to Travis, though, he refused to cooperate unless he was in the presence of his probation officer. So they set up an appointment to meet with Travis Beach at the Hillsborough County Probation and Parole Office, and he told them everything that he knew. On March 21st, Anthony Badero is called to testify in front of the grand jury. In April, Kayla and Adam are arrested on the firearms theft charges that we spoke about in the beginning. But later in April, an inmate named Bobby Johnson comes out, and he gives information about Travis Beach and the U-Haul. And he tells authorities this story about how him, Travis Beach, and Beach's girlfriend, Jenna Lee Paris, were all at a drug house doing drugs. And Travis kind of confesses to Bobby about Adam. He says Adam came to him. He says he fucked up. He needs him to rent the U-Haul. And he really was uncomfortable with it because at this point, all the information about Harmony was coming out, and he felt like connected. He said that he and Adam had drove around the county disposing of bags, trash bags containing items. But when police speak to Travis about this, he denies it. He says he never drove the cargo van after he handed the keys to Adam, so he doesn't know what Bobby's talking about. Bobby says that Travis's girlfriend, Jenna Lee, stops Travis from talking too much about this in front of Bobby because she's afraid that Travis might incriminate himself. And I'm just wondering who the fuck Jenna Lee is, because why are you protecting people who are involved with a child murderer? Like I said, police go and speak to Travis. At this point, he's in New Hampshire State Prison, and he denies all of it. He just says, the last time I drove the van was picking up Adam. We drove to the motel, and I handed him the keys, and that was the extent of it. In May, Kayla is released from jail, and the same month, the Office of the Child Advocates in Massachusetts releases their report outlining the mistakes that were made in Harmony's case. And I think it's ironic that the same month that they're releasing their outline about mistakes being, Kayla is released. So, the fucking irony there. Anyway, on May 20th, Kayla testifies in front of the grand jury, as well as Donna Demers, who is the girlfriend of Anthony Badero. However, Kayla, she lies in this testimony, and she's arrested on 2 counts of perjury. The same day she is arrested, June 3rd, is the same day as her first proffer interview, and immediately, she starts telling them everything. The police start searching Christina's house to seize the red and white cooler. They send out for DNA testing. They search, do a thorough search of the Union Street apartment. They actually remove the refrigerator. They rip up parts of the closet, and they even remove faucets. They do an absolute thorough search of the families in transition shelter. They removed sections of the ceiling, the vent, metal framing, and sheetrock. At the end of June, police have their second proffer interview with Kayla, and her information doesn't really change much. It seems to stay the same. There's just a couple of minor corrections. So, from what I'm told, proffer agreements are essentially a defendant's opportunity to sit down with the government and tell them what they know in hopes that they are offered a deal or immunity. And in this case, Kayla receives a pretty fucking sweet deal that we'll discuss. In July, they seized the mini fridge from the Econo Lodge motel room that the Montgomerys were staying at. And with all of these things, they're swabbing and they're testing, and as some of the results for these labs are coming back, they're realizing that Harmony is no longer missing. She's murdered. And the case has changed from a missing child to a homicide. In September of 2022, the U-Haul is finally located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and police travel down there, and the new owners give consent for the police search. And surprisingly, even though this is a cleaning company, police are still able to indicate with Blue Star on spots of potential DNA evidence. They swab these areas, obviously, and send them out for testing. And a lot of these results, as of the time the arrest affidavit was written, were pending, so we don't know the results. And I'm assuming we probably won't find out until trial. Shockingly, on November 18th, 2022, the state enters into a plea agreement with Kayla for the perjury charges. She is sentenced to, I'm going to give a general overview because she was really sentenced to 3 to 7 years for each charge, but it's suspended. So what she ended up with in total was a 10-year suspended sentence with 18 months to serve and 197 days credit. She also has to testify against Adam in the firearms trial as well as the murder trial. And she is not being charged with the firearms theft. She is not being charged with welfare fraud. And she is not being charged in connection with Harmony's murder. Talk about a fucking sweet deal. At the end of May 2023, jury selection started for the firearms trial in Adam's case, so we're kind of back at square one at this point. I've really been trying to tame my opinion out throughout this, whole thing, but it's been extremely hard. All I can say is that it's a good thing that Adam and Kayla's boys were 2 years old and 10 months old at the time. And I'm really praying that witnessing such a tragic event at such a young age won't affect them long term in any sort of way. But what's most insane to me is that Kayla may have the chance to hold her children once again, while Crystal will never get the chance to fucking hold Harmony. My heart breaks for Crystal because she lost her baby to the system. And then she lost her baby to the fucking man the system put in charge. Her ex. It has to be soul crushing to not even be able to bury her because these fucking monsters are incapable of giving her even that simple closure. I sit here and wonder if Kayla was an abused victim of Adam's, petrified for her own children as she watched Adam beat her, his daughter to death. But Kayla had an obligation to Harmony as well as her boys. And she failed them just like everybody else did. She had so many opportunities to fix this, but she didn't do a goddamn thing until her fucking back was against the wall, and at that point it was too late. Harmony deserved to have a carefree childhood with support and love. She never deserved to be put in fucking trash bags, and that's what her own father did. I sit here and I wonder how strangers could have more love for this little girl than her own fucking father. Another thing that crossed my mind was imagine if Adam had left Harmony's remains in that walk-in freezer just a little bit longer. Portland Pie Company abruptly closed on March 1st, and it's possible that this case could have ended so different if he had just waited. As of the date of I'm recording this, June 29th, 2023, Harmony's remains still have not been located. And I'm praying that they will be soon because she deserves a proper burial, at least considering all that she's fucking been through. I know I've talked before about this case, and this case specifically bothers me so much. It breaks me down. I texted my husband and I was just like, I wish there was something more that I could do. And that's one of the things I've been working on. I have been trying to start a nonprofit geared towards the prevention of child abuse and memorializing children whose lives have been ended due to violence. It's a project that I'm calling Blue Light Blankets, and I've been working on a business plan and making stock and just doing everything I can to make sure that this is kicked off in the right way possible. I want to give back in honor of all these children, and I want to be able to make a difference somehow. Along with that, I have been working on an insanely long documentary about Gannon Stout, who was also an inspiration for this project. And that is honestly been requiring a lot of time and energy. It's going to be extensive. But I apologize because I know I haven't been active, and I love and appreciate every single subscriber I have, every listener. I am truly, like, beyond thrilled for each and every one of you. So please, guys, subscribe, hit the bell, so that you get notifications when I do post. I have so much that I'm working on, and I'm trying very hard to get it out to you guys. I hope that you have all been having a wonderful 2023. I have had so much going on. I've been spreading myself so thin, but I'm trying to bring it all together for you all, and you all know the deal. Stay notified. Stay with me, and I'll catch you on the flip side, guys. I love you.